Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live with Normal. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Friday, January 12th, 2024. Means it's time to answer all of your burning questions live. Hey, state legislatures are in session around the country, so I hope you're following our ACT page. I also hope you're following us wherever you're watching this now. So take a quick second to hit that like, that follow, or that subscribe button. And also drop us a note and let us know where you're watching from. Hey, Pauline, happy Friday to you. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Sherry. Hey, Fred and Lumpy. Hello, ma'ams. Coming right at us from Virginia with some comments about the governor. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Pauline, you're in Virginia. Well, you should come to the Virginia Cannabis Conference next weekend. Let's check out, so many people watching us on Instagram now that we can stream there. What a great addition. Hey, JDF in Kansas. Hey, Nola in Texas. Hello, April in Virginia. The Veg in Syracuse and Lori in St. Louis. Hello, Amy and King Covert in Rhode Island. Hey, Lance, good to see you, friend. Hey, Tamara. Got lots of South Carolina, Virginia. So great to see everyone. I love seeing where you all are from. Hey, Steve in Wisconsin. Jason in Minneapolis. All right, friends. Got a little bit of news for you this week. But mostly what I want you all to be super aware of is that it's time for you to take action. There is legislation pending across the country, as I said earlier. Right now, we have 33 bills, 33 marijuana-related bills that NORML is tracking in its Take Action Center. Make it real easy for you to just click and send a message to your representatives, letting them know that you support good legislation, that you oppose terrible legislation. And we've got a mix of both this year. No surprise there. Hey, Ed, I'll go ahead, since you're the third person to ask, I'll go ahead and answer Ed's question. Ed's watching on YouTube and says, is there any chance Governor Youngkin is going to sign an adult use retail sales bill? Well, he said some things with his out loud voice after the State of the Union, State of the Commonwealth address. And it was, the third big fat nothing burger. He's really served up on this. Remember when he was on the campaign trail, he said, well, he's not going to overturn legalization, as if he'd have the votes to do that. And then this last session, someone quoted him and he said, oh, well, they've got a lot of work to do. Sounds like he doesn't know we did about a year's worth of work in studies. 2 different groups did that. And we have a 500-page report on how to legalize cannabis in Virginia. Also, it's already the law. So it sounds like he didn't know that. And then he said it's up to the legislature to get him a bill, which was next to impossible to get him a bill when members of his administration were calling committee chairs and shutting down the bill so they couldn't get out of House committees. And then, hey, this week he said he's not interested in marijuana legislation. Well, I think a lot of us aren't interested in, paying taxes or taking out the trash, but these are all things that we have to do. So here we are, third big fat hot steaming nothing burger served up. on cannabis legalization by the governor. That's my answer, Ed. Is there any chance he signs it? I don't know. Right? Like, there's a path to get a bill to this guy's desk, which is what he asked for. And is he going to veto it? Seems like if he vetoes it, then what he's saying is, he'd really prefer to keep organized crime in your backyards. When the state legalizes cannabis, what they see, and this is over decades of historical data that we have in the US, this isn't my personal opinion, but what happens is the state's illicit market reduces dramatically because they have a regulated market in place, and people would rather engage with a regulated market where they know what they're getting. And that's not happening in the state of Virginia because his administration is preventing a regulated marketplace from being enacted. So instead of seeing that dramatic reduction in illegal activity, instead there's been an explosion in the illicit market. That's not good for people who like to be safe, because I hate to break it to you, but like in this state, it's a $2.4 billion a year illicit market. That's not your friend who grows weed. That's organized crime. That's dangerous. Hey, Curtis, good to see you. Curtis says, my family doesn't seem to understand about legalization of cannabis in Georgia. They just say keep being patient and don't complain. That doesn't sound fun. But half the nation is legal and you can't get legal access. Yeah, Curtis. So if you've ever watched before, we have so many signs because I say so many things repeatedly. Gotta get the right sign. Listen, Georgia, elections have consequences. You keep electing terrible people when it comes to cannabis policy in the state of Georgia, so you have terrible cannabis policies. Garbage in, garbage out. So there's a few things you can do. But first and foremost, vote. Right? Make sure you're electing people who support the policy measures you want to see, and make sure you're encouraging others to vote for people who, want to see the change you want. But then after those elections, right, it's still up to you to communicate with your elected officials, whether you voted for them or not. If they represent you, it's on you to talk to them about what you want to see. Fortunately, we make that easy for you with the NORML Take Action Center. I don't see any bills pending in Georgia yet, but you can always use our fact sheets. You can always use our fact sheets and send fact sheets to your lawmakers as well, and just say, hey, here's some information on cannabis policies that I'd like to see enacted in the state of Georgia. Of course, you do have a limited licensure, limited use medical cannabis program, which is arguably better than nothing, but so much room for improvement. Curtis, thanks for joining us. I don't know what happened to families in Virginia. If you want to, oh, hey, Folly, good to see you. Thanks. Yeah, Cameron, Georgia is 5%, but I will also add that caveat that 5% sounds terrible to, at first glance. There were a handful there weren't a handful, there were 3 states, Virginia, Texas, and Georgia, all started off with this terrible model piece of legislation that was presented to these fairly conservative legislatures, and they took it. But these are liquid products, and so 5% in the liquid is much different than 5% by dry weight in the plant. 5% by dry weight in the plant, that's really low, right? But 5% in a liquid measurement, that means 50 milligrams per milliliter. Just if you need a visual on that, a teaspoon, like a little teaspoon. This is bigger than a teaspoon, but like a teaspoon is 5 milliliters. So that would be 150 milligrams of THC in 1 teaspoon. If it makes people feel good to call 5% low THC, hey, let them call it that. But in reality, it's not at all what it means. And it's not my obligation to explain that to people who want to pass stupid policies. Oh, is North Carolina going to continue? North Carolina has one pending bill right now, and it is in support. Well, we have the start over. Senate Bill 3 in North Carolina is the Compassionate Care Act, and it did cross over from the previous session. There's an action alert up in support of that right now, so you can use that on our ACT page. Mams, when asked when medical and decrim happened in Virginia, I said many Democrats were tepid to the legislation. Yeah, I think that Democrats have warmed up. The ones that are still there, they've warmed up. They know what needs to be done. Will the new crop of legislators be more open to retail legalization? You know, that remains to be seen. But the legislative effort for retail access is going to be driven by the caucus, by the majority in the House and the Senate, which is Democrats. So generally, we can look in that. This is what happened when we legalized originally, when we decriminalized originally as well. It was largely driven by a caucus and effort, and that really helps. It's less about individual opinions just floating around out there and more about, can we have a team effort to get this thing done? Hey, KA, no update on HSA1. That means the license, medical cannabis license in Virginia that's still pending. They haven't opened that, but we expect that they will. CCA said they wanted to open that application in January. Cameron, there are local decriminalization laws across the state of Georgia. You can find that on our website. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll see if I can find that for you while I do these 45 other things at the same time. Florida caps flour at 35%. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant because flour doesn't really get over 30%. Sure, someone come at me and be big mad about that, I guess. Hi, someone on Instagram is asking if we can I tell you one more thing? Can I start a blog or website related to cannabis? Sure, go ahead. Hi, Ryan. See you right there. Will there be another cannabis conference lobby day in Richmond this year? Yes, January 19th through the 21st is the conference, and the 22nd is lobby day. King, that's very nice of you to say. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Nola on Instagram, thanks for joining us. And they're asking if Texas is anywhere close to letting the people decide. I mean, you get the chance every time you vote. Again, I'll say elections have consequences, Texas. And if you elect bad people, you're going to get bad policies. I will also add, though, that you have a fantastic chapter in Texas, Texas NORML, led right now by my dear colleague, James. Make sure you're connected with Texas NORML. Oh, hey, person in the one here watching us on Instagram who is in Nevada talking about the per se laws. Nevada's per se laws are terrible. And yes, if there's legislation introduced, we'll absolutely have an action alert in support of that. So keep us posted. State Line to the Blue Ridge on Instagram. Thanks for joining us. You are asking any chance of the amendments to the employee protection law in Virginia passing. Are there any resources for those who are being discriminated against? Yes, us. You can email us. You can email info@virginianormal.org. Really sending an email is a lot better than sending us a message on social media, but send us an email. We can take a look at what's going on in your situation. And yeah, there is a good chance, there's a clear path to get that employee protections bill on the governor's desk. What he does with it, you know. Person on Instagram is asking about a new state agency taking over as the regulator in Virginia. Yes, that is correct. We have a new regulator for cannabis in Virginia. Previously, the medical cannabis program was regulated by the Board of Pharmacy. And instead, we, a few years back, had a legislative effort to establish the Cannabis Control Authority so that we'd have a regulator that is specific to cannabis and has actual policy expertise in regulating cannabis. And that just took over on January 1. They're good people. Hello, Lauren. Good to see you. Lauren, Deputy Director of Kentucky NORML, will join us here in Virginia next weekend. Can't wait for that. Christopher asks if I've heard anything about companies being able to patent certain cannabis genetics. Yes, I have, because I was at the NORML Aspen Legal Seminar where they talked about IP law and specifically that. Justin Esquivel from, I'm sorry, Justin, while I do a terrible job at remembering your company's name, but I want to say it properly. He will be back at the conference next weekend, and we'll talk about that. Green Luster Phenos. Justin is brilliant on this and is going to talk about that as well. Hi, Llewellyn. Good to see you. Right now, the endorsed legislation, you can find that on the tracker on either the NORML or the Virginia NORML website. Cameron, Cannabis Control Authorities, the language is the same as Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority. It's just, we have agencies and we have authorities, and it just is the regulator. The language is not about incriminating civilians. It's the regulator that oversees the programs, like medical right now is what there is to oversee. So the legislature writes the laws, and then that is, the laws dictate what the regulations look like. So there's nothing wrong with the CCA. they're just doing what they're authorized to do, which is make sure that patients have access to products that are safe, convenient, and affordable. Okay, that's sure. Hey, TC, good to see you. Andrea, I really think it's hilarious that Senator Lucas said that, but I think she means business. I think if Senator Lucas wants to hold something captive for adult use, let's go. Why not? Hey, Christopher, good to see you. Hello, Marine 6060, asking, do you think the federal law will change from a Schedule I drug for cannabis? Yes. Yes, I do think at some point that will occur. Do I think that, does NORML think that this current scheduling review that is underway is going to be the vehicle through which that happens? It's not likely. The DEA has been party to scheduling reviews many times, and they have rejected any such recommendations. They were on the record again last week reiterating that they are not beholden to HHS's recommendation. They can, the HHS made their recommendation to bizarrely to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3. That doesn't mean DEA has to agree with them or take that recommendation under any meaningful consideration. They appear to be reviewing it at this point in time, but it doesn't mean that DEA is going to say, yeah, let's go with Schedule 3, or they're going to do anything. And even if they did, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. If, let's say we all wake up tomorrow and cannabis is Schedule 3. For you, for your state's adult use program, your state's medical program, it doesn't mean anything because they would still be in conflict with federal law. But if people want to get excited about that, I mean, it's like neat lip service. It'd be something. It'd be movement. There wouldn't be meaningful movement. So do I think they're going to do it soon? No, I don't think they're going to do it soon. I think that it's worth repeating that the way that federal prohibition will be ended is when Congress passes a bill to remove marijuana from the Federal Controlled Substances Act and allow states to set their own policies without threat of federal interference. It's not executive order. It's not this played out rescheduling facade charade that we've seen a few times now. HHS isn't going to strong arm the DEA into doing anything. But yeah, I mean, vote better and talk to the people once they're elected. So this is what needs to happen. Hey, Radhika, good to see you. Do I think there will be reform to Virginia banking to accommodate cannabis sale? There's some language in one of the bills. Was that helpful? Everyone has banking, though. I really don't want to answer that question below yours, so we're going to go with ma'ams. Hey, Tree in North Carolina, good to see you. Do we know about the new process in Virginia about a barcode? Yes, there's a platform called BioTrack that Board of Pharmacy entered into an agreement with, and they put forth this. They tried to mandate an enrollment program, and I don't know if you recall, but registration is not required in Virginia for patients or practitioners. And here's the thing: you can just call it enrollment, but it still means the same thing. Anyhow, they're not the regulator anymore, but we still have this platform out there that's does not appear to be working well still, and there has been clarification again provided by CCA that pursuant to Virginia code, all a patient is required to have is their state issued ID, so like a driver's license or ID card, and a valid written certification. It can be on paper or can be transmitted electronically, but that's all you have to be a patient in Virginia is the written certification and ID. Hey, Michael, no, they're not going to tax medical cannabis in Virginia. Lauren says that in Kentucky, they just announced that they will use metric. Great. Who cares? I mean, as long as metric is willing to make their product work for your state, that's all that matters. Right? I know metric wants to get into Virginia, and great. Can you make a product that works? Because some other people can't. So let's do that. See what's happening over here on Instagram, because of course it's not all in one stream. Oh, hey, Lori in St. Louis, Missouri. Expungement on federal convictions. Right on. Hey, Amanda asks about states trying to run social equity applicant programs. Yeah, I think that a lot of states are trying to figure out how to create cannabis markets that are more easily accessible, particularly for those who might have been criminalized or impacted by marijuana prohibition. It varies across the country. The success varies across the country. But there are great business associations out there that can tell you way more about that. NORML is a consumer advocacy organization, so that's what we focus on. But you can definitely look at Minority Cannabis Business Association. They have great information about that and who's doing things that work and who's not. Huh. Yeah, some states do have specific people, it's not the right word, positions identified to administer their social equity programs. Not every state has that, though. Yes, Glenda. Schedule 3 is not the answer. Okay. That's a lot. You're welcome, April. Mm. Lori, the federal pardon, if it's simple possession related, the federal pardon portal is open. You can find that on the NORML website. If you go to the NORML website and look up federal pardon, Google search federal pardon on our website, you'll find the portal. Ed, that's a great question. So I'm glad you asked this. Ed asked if there's any chance of Virginia expanding expungement, which right now is technically called record sealing, to cover cultivation of 4 plants or less. It depends on how that charge was originally. We have to look at what that actual charge was. I mean, it would have to be specific to the charge, if it was manufacturing or if it was just possession with intent to distribute, right? So felony PWOD, possession with intent to distribute, will be available for petition-based expungement no later than July 1, 2025. So we've still got another legislative cycle before that, but that's something that's worth looking at. I kind of like that framing of what was the charge. I'd have to go back into code and look at it to see what the charge was for X plants or less. And if that is not currently something that's eligible for expungement, we could certainly run a bill. If not this session, because it's getting a little, getting a little into session, then next session before really meaningful expungement laws even take effect. Larry, is there any THC limit on flower sold in Virginia dispensaries? No. Yes, processors pay taxes in Virginia. Medical cannabis companies pay tax in Virginia. Patients don't. The companies do. Hey, Johnny asks, is it true the government has a patent on a cannabis pill? Not on a pill, but the government does hold patents on cannabinoids and specific actions. There is a cannabis pill that is available by prescription across the United States and has been for many, many years. The generic name is dronabinol. The brand name, which is what most people know, is Marinol. It is 100% pure synthetic THC. Someone asked me earlier, and I was like, I don't want to answer that question, but since we're talking about 100% pure synthetic THC, which is a Schedule 3 drug and available by prescription, someone asked what NORML thinks of synthesized of synthetics made from from CBD. I mean, it's kind of gross. Like, it's not. what's gross about it is not that a chemical compound has been synthesized from another. There's nothing generally wrong with that, but the process through which that occurs uses other chemical compounds, and if they're not cleaned out of the final product, then gross. You can synthesize delta 8 or delta 9 THC from CBD by cooking it in what's essentially battery acid for 3 days. So you probably want to clean up that end product before you give it to people to ingest. Now, if you're making that product in a regulatory model, first of all, you probably wouldn't have to jump through hoops to cook it in the lab when you could just grow the plant and extract it. Let's say you wanted to do this. If you were in the construct of a regulatory model, then the product would be regulated for consumer safety the same way any other cannabis product would be. So you can reasonably assume that the user will be getting a product that's clean and safe. And then who cares? But outside of that structure, they continue to pose significant health risks to consumers. And then there's other products that probably should never make it to market, other synthetics that you should read the science on. I hope that answers your question. Hey, Christopher asks, can we get medical access to products on Medicaid? Could we? Yes. Can we? Can we now? No. But a lot of companies, not just in Virginia, but a lot of cannabis companies across the nation will provide medical cannabis companies offer discounts to Medicaid and to veterans. Just ask if you don't see it. Manufacturing. Okay, Ed, I'll take a look at that. Hey, KA asked if there's a list of cannabis testing services for consumers in Virginia. No, there isn't. So, but if you just buy a product from a licensed dispensary, then it's been regulated for consumer safety. Outside of that, you don't know. We have really excellent consumer safety standards for regulated products in Virginia, though. If I do say so myself, and I do. I don't know what that means, Nick. Oh, chemically converted CBD products? That's what we were talking about. Well, and we're looking forward to seeing you. Insulin, I don't disagree on the insulin type 1 says THC testing is unreliable. There is no standard. Yes, in many cases that may be the case, particularly when it comes to labs not being regulated. There are reliable labs out there. But there remain issues with labs across the country. Thank you, Llewellyn, for that reminder. It's as a neuroprotectant that the U.S. government holds a patent on cannabinoids. Canuck Luck, you are correct. There is not enough Delta 8 present naturally to extract. And we'll see. Hi, Joe. Welcome. Glad you joined us. Glad you joined us. Southwest Virginia, Jess. I see your comment about why limits on flower, but you can buy all the tincture you want. I'm not certain in what context that question or comment is being offered, but tell me more. Tell me what, I mean, you said Southwest Virginia, so I'm guessing that you're talking about in Virginia. And at the medical dispensaries, because all the dispensaries are, there's limits on both. Patients can buy up to 4 ounces of flower every 30 days. And then if it's an extraction-based product, then it's a 90-day supply is what's in code. And that's going to either vary by the individual, or some stores like G Leaf just has, here's what we think a 90-day supply is. I actually have that from G Leaf and now have no idea where it ended up, but they have a handout that a patient gave me to look at that says, here's what G Leaf considers to be a 90-day supply. Well, I can't wait to find that one day. It's somewhere in here. And that's going to be real fun to read when we do find it. And hopefully don't throw all this stuff on the floor. Ooh, Lori, that's a lot. Here it is. G Leaf, short pump. G Leaf thinks that goodness. I was like 100% certain it was in this. Oh, monthly allotments. It's literally right there. 30 cartridges every 30 days and edibles, 30 packages every 30 days. So yes, that's very generous. Guess we didn't really need to worry about what that said. Right, good policy, friends. Mike, so Mike asked for me to tell the truth. I don't run a forensics lab, but I'm going to tell you what I know. How much does it cost to test a product for contaminants? I think that a full panel, and if you're a forensic toxicologist and you know who you are, I can text one right now and ask them. I think it's around $400 to $500 to run a full panel. I think it's around $400 to $500 to run a full panel. Most people are testing to see what's in, like what their percentages are, and that's like how much their cannabinoid percentages, and that's a much lower cost than to test for contaminants, because you have to have a certain number of, like, what contaminants are you looking for? You have to test specifically for those contaminants. Lauren, you're not wrong. Look, this is states struggle with this over and over and over again. Lauren says, I worry that when we do have medical go live next year in Kentucky, our patients still won't be able to, one, access dispensaries, and two, afford the product. That's continues to be a problem across the country. The Balanced Gourmet, you can get 4 ounces of flour every 30 days in Virginia. Hey, Steve in New Jersey. So you're telling me New Jersey is having a difficult time with the rollout? Shocking, I tell you. Shocking. You're welcome, Mike. All right. You all have had so many great questions today. This is awesome. I do want to tell you about a few little newsy items. I probably wanted that other one from last week. This week, Delaware, a House committee in Delaware advanced a bill, a Let Doctors Decide bill, that would expand physicians' authority to issue certifications for medical cannabis. I'm putting a link to that in the chat right now. If you're watching on Instagram, you can find the story on our Instagram page. Just click on the link in our bio and you'll be able to check it out there. Let doctors decide bills are great. We should let healthcare providers practice medicine, those with expertise in medicine and relationships with their patients, instead of allowing legislators or regulators who are not necessarily experts in medicine, nor do they have relationships with those patients. You shouldn't be letting state regulators or state legislators make up lists of conditions with which they are emotionally comfortable in order for patients to access medical cannabis. That's absurd. I don't know about you, but if I needed surgery, I wouldn't call my state senator and be like, is this the right one? I would trust my healthcare providers to make those decisions. So hopefully Delaware gets this bill across the finish line. And yes, I agree, Llewellyn, not all healthcare providers have all the knowledge, but you know who I trust a lot more than my state senator or my state delegate when it comes to making healthcare decisions? And my healthcare providers. So that's what happened in Delaware this week. Also this week, we updated the NORML report, marijuana expungements by the numbers, because we got some new data, and it turns out states have cleared over 2.3 million marijuana offenses from records. There's still millions more to go, but this is really great. This is really great action. And states that have been the most active in providing relief to those with past convictions include California, Illinois, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, and Virginia. 24 states and DC have enacted laws in recent years providing explicit pathways to either expunge, seal, annul, or otherwise set aside records for those with low-level marijuana convictions. Some jurisdictions do it automatically, and some require those seeking relief to petition the courts to have the records reviewed and vacated. But here we are. Progress is great. Our estimate since 1965 is that around 29 million marijuana arrests have occurred, and so 2.3 million is a small percentage of that, but good on those states that are moving forward. Hello, Brian from Indiana. Good to see you. Okay. All right, friends. Check over here and yeah, the Balanced Gourmet on Instagram says, isn't it tricky for healthcare providers if they're affiliated with a hospital that's a national corporation? Yeah, a lot of health systems issue warning letters to their practitioners saying you can't issue medical cannabis certifications. They can tell their healthcare providers that, but a healthcare provider's right to issue medical cannabis recommendations to their patients is protected as free speech. That's settled law in the United States. Specifically that about medical cannabis recommendations, not free speech, but them being free speech. Is New Jersey anything like the New York program? That the rollout's not going well? Yes. I know that's not what you're asking, but it's just, the jokes write themselves sometimes. Brian, congratulations. That's amazing. All right, let me give you some more news, friends. Some more news for you. You know how people love legislators whoever, they like to go, oh, we need more research. If only we had research about something that people have been consuming for tens of thousands of years. If only we had more research. I know there's over 50,000 entries on PubMed right now, but if only we had more research. Neat. There was a twin study done on lifetime cannabis exposure. Researchers looked at 4,000 people, 4,000, over a pretty significant amount of time. I'm going to open it and tell you exactly what it is. It's a 30-year community study of 4,078 twins. And ultimately, researchers concluded that lifetime exposure to cannabis has few persistent effects on mental health and other psychosocial outcomes. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I need more research, people. Got a lot of spicy stuff to get out. It's been a tough week at the Virginia General Assembly. In another study for you that is going to come for you as zero surprise, chronic pain patients were surveyed, and they reported greater satisfaction with cannabis and said that it was more effective than conventional therapies. You don't say. If you like all of these stories and more, you can get them delivered to your inbox tomorrow morning between like 9 and 9:30. If you subscribe to the Weekend Weed Read, just go to normal.org/subscribe. Make sure you check the Weekend Weed Read box so that you always get that sent to you every Saturday. Mike, that article is in the comments now. I just dropped it in there. It's in the comments on either Virginia NORML or NORML in the stream, or just go to the news section of the NORML website, normal.org/news. And there will be links to the specific study. Not just our blog, our press release about it, but then link to the actual study is embedded in the article. Speaking of articles, let's talk about, I have two more for you. Speaking of opioids, Mike, here's another one. So this study is about administering cannabis and opioids at the same time. There's been a lot of research done on this. This is another one to throw on that pile. This study was specific to hospice patients. But again, these study authors concluded that this study highlights the potential benefits of medical cannabis co-administration with opioid therapy for pain management. And then it demonstrated a statistically significant pain reduction over time with minimal adverse effects. So there you go. There's more. You're not wrong, Folly. You're not wrong, Folly. Hey, Tree, isn't it fun? Tree says, that's always what I hear back when I write my reps. I always link to PubMed and never hear back. Send them, attach a PDF of one of our fact sheets. If you are in the NORML fact sheets library, there's a little printer icon next to the fact sheet on its page, and you can just download it, attach it to the email. Then they didn't have to click anything. It's right there. Heck, you can copy it and paste it in the body of the email and send it directly to them. Spoon feed it. Bye, Llewellyn. See you next weekend. All right, last news for you. But I got to go put some news for you in some other places. But there was a survey done of physicians, specifically about those who have endorsed cannabis-based therapies for pediatric patients. This one was specific to pediatric patients with cerebral palsy. 47% of physicians surveyed reported that they had, in fact, recommended cannabis-based therapies for those patients. See you next weekend, Radhika. Yay. This has been a blast, friends. I want to make sure that you are taking action. There's legislation pending across the country, 33 bills so far. We're only the first week into a handful of legislative sessions around the country, but there are 33 action alerts ready for you to send on in the NORML Take Action Center for states. We've got one pending in California. We've got one bill in Washington. We've got 2 bills in Wisconsin, 2 bills in Missouri, 3 bills in Florida, 2 bills in Kentucky, 2 bills in Ohio, 2 bills in Pennsylvania, 4 in New Hampshire, 5 in South Carolina, 1 in North Carolina, and 7 in Virginia. Oh, and that was part of it. That's Virginia. And Delaware's got 1 as well. Make sure you are going to NORML Takes Action Center, clicking on those action alerts, sending them to your lawmakers, and then sharing them with your friends and family as well. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. JT, they're coming. We only have a handful of states because it's still pretty early in legislative sessions. Some of us are fast and furious like Virginia, where we're only here for 60 days. Some of you all have 2-year sessions. So scramble and get the quick ones in first. If you see legislation pending in your state that you think is important, send it to me. Hey, Ed, thanks for the question. How often should we do action alerts? Pretty much every action alert on our website, you can click and edit it. Even if you don't change the body of the email, change the subject line. You could just put constituent request. You could write you could send the same thing again the next week and say question from a constituent. Changing the subject line is a really great deliverability technique for action alerts. Send them as often as you want. If they if they respond to your email, respond to that and ask them more questions. Go see them in person. Of course, be awesome, be polite, be professional, and go to their other events. If you can't visit them at the Capitol, visit them when they're in your neck of the woods. Make sure you're talking to your lawmakers in person, on the phone, wherever, whenever, however, most importantly, in a professional and courteous way so that they can hear what you're talking about. I'm not saying you have to love them, but if you're being a jerk, it's real difficult to listen. Thanks, Tree. I'm glad you do action alerts once a month. Of course, if you're in a state with a short session, you might want to do them, like on a weekly basis during session, just so that they're getting out there. Thanks for joining us. All right, everyone. It's after 5. Hey, Lori, thanks for joining us on Instagram. Yes, Amanda, the opioid story will be in the Weekend Weed Read. Hey, Nathan and Philly, thanks for checking in. Appreciate you joining us. Steve asking about the American Heart Association study. Nope, we don't make anything of it. Go to our website and look up, just do a quick heart or cardiovascular. You'll see a lot of studies that have very different opinions. Check out this other Instagram tab before we go. Hey, Outdoor Grow, Republicans want to sneak new crimes in any cannabis bill. No, not the regulatory bills, not the real bills that have been introduced. The only penalties that are in there are penalties that would need to exist for the licensees. If you don't specify a penalty, if you create a regulatory structure and code and you don't specify a penalty, then it's going to default to whatever penalty is specified elsewhere. And if there isn't one specified, it could default to a Class 6 felony. So just like you can't, let's say, liquor is regulated by the state in Virginia, and at the Virginia ABC store, you can't sell alcohol out the back door. If you do, there's a penalty. So you're going to see very analogous penalties in the the cannabis licensing code that's in the adult use bill. It's not about criminalizing consumers. It's about saying, here are the penalties if you don't follow the law in this regulatory structure. I don't buy that narrative out there that's like, oh, there's this bill's all these new marijuana offenses. Okay, whatever. But if you don't specify what the penalty is for the offense, then it could be a lot worse. So specifying that something is a misdemeanor instead of letting it default to the felony, why would you not want to specify that? Anyhow, but no, not specific to consumers, specific to licensees. Give me a break. All right, this has been great, friends. Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Insulin. Banks. Is bringing your own cannabis to a place allowed? Depends on where you are. Depends on where you are. Like if you're in a state where it's legal to carry cannabis, then sure. All right, friends. I will try to do a show next week, next Friday. If we do, it'll be quick. It'll be from the it'll be right before the welcome reception at the Virginia Cannabis Conference, and I would love to see you all there. You can get information at virginiacannabisconference.com. You can get information from Kentucky NORML on the Kentucky Cannabis Conference that's coming up in March. And you can get information on the NORML Aspen Legal Seminar at norml.org/Aspen. That is coming up the end of May, beginning of June. See you there as well, Sherry. Everyone have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us, and I will see you back here next time. Bye-bye.